What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're covering some more r/am I the butthole. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below, but if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too, as it all really helps out our channel. And yesterday, we did have a couple of member updates. We had Vegito Unlimited and Zoe C with a rejoin. Thank you so much for your support and for everyone for taking the time out of your days to be here. Absolutely incredible. And with that being said, let's just crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Now, our first story comes from Nebula Flashy 9008. Am I the arsehole for blowing up on my mother-in-law and causing a scene because of what she said to my child? We are very low contact with my in-laws. We might occasionally see them at a mutual family member's event, but there is no relationship. Mother-in-law chose to be low/almost no contact with us, and then due to an issue around the wedding, she didn't come. Father-in-law lied about why. I corrected him in front of the guests. Father-in-law cut us off completely and said he didn't want a relationship anymore. We saw them the other night for the first time in probably a year at a cousin's wedding. As they were leaving, mother-in-law went to kiss son-in-law's son goodbye, which prompted my nephew asking why mother-in-law never interacts with my kids. My 5-year-old daughter said mother-in-law isn't her grandmother and her grandmother is her nana, meaning my mum. My nephew is a bit older and gets family relationships and said mother-in-law is both of their grandmother. Mother-in-law told my daughter that she chooses not to have a relationship with us because we really hurt her husband. I only heard the end of this conversation, but sister-in-law filled me in. I asked mother-in-law calmly why she would tell my child that. Mother-in-law said that I did hurt her husband and it isn't up for discussion. This is why I think I might be the arsehole. I ran after her and screamed that if she had a valid reason, she would say it, and walking away proves that she doesn't have a reason. Mother-in-law didn't answer and just calmly walked away, which obviously made me look like an arse in front of the guests. I apologized to the cousin before we left, but she seemed mad at me. My husband says it's fine and mother-in-law should not have spoken to our daughter. Now let's face it, you're going to be an arsehole for causing a scene at a wedding. Absolutely, there's no way around that, right? But I also do question the mother-in-law speaking to the daughter like that. I mean, the daughter was, 5 years old and explaining the whole situation going on. I don't think that was appropriate either. I just don't think it was needed at the time, especially at someone's wedding. But I think OP is just going to be the arsehole in the situation for actually causing a scene at the wedding. It's just not a place to do that, in my opinion. And Tinkerific says, and quotes, I ran after her and screamed. You look like an arse because you ran after her and screamed to begin and created a scene at your cousin's wedding. You should have just settled for telling your daughter and your nephew the truth of things. You're the arsehole for causing a scene. And Amethyst Fire says, you're the arsehole, and quotes, father-in-law lied about why I corrected him in front of the guests. And it says, you embarrassed the fuck out of him in front of everyone. Yes, you hurt him with that. Sounds like mother-in-law was trying to use an age-appropriate explanation. And then quotes, I ran after her and screamed that if she has a valid reason she would say it, and walking away proves that she doesn't have a reason. And it says, no, walking away proves that she's trying to be a better person and not cause a scene at the wedding, thus detracting from the happy couple. And then quotes, mother-in-law didn't answer and just calmly walked away, which obviously made me look like an arse in front of the guest. I apologized to the cousin before we left, but she seemed mad at me. And it says she has every right to be mad at you. You picked a fight at her wedding and made yourself look like an arse. Mother-in-law chose not to engage. I'd love to hear the other side of this story. I feel like a lot has been left out. And Sif Walker says you're the arsehole for making a scene at someone's wedding. Running after her and screaming accomplished absolutely nothing. And now I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation and what would you do in it? Let me know in the comments below. And our next post does come with an update and it's called, would I be the arsehole if I fire a kid because his mother is harassing me? I, late 20s, run a department in a startup and hired a few student workers, 17 to 21, to conduct classes. He's not great, he shows up late, doesn't prepare, but when addressed, he's started to improve a lot. Still not as good as the others, but he gets the job done. His mum, however, she knows me through a mutual friend, and she has constantly been emailing me, asking why she doesn't have access to the internal systems of the company so she can check on his work. sending me voice notes of her screaming at him after he forgets about meetings, sending me messages to excuse him from these classes he's supposed to conduct last minute because she didn't finish up her rounds, or even when he just forgot. The last incident was when he showed up 25 minutes late, didn't even notify us. He knew I'd be out for the day and proceeded to bill for more time than he was there for. I wrote on his timesheet that he was overbilling and that he needs to inform us if he wasn't going to make it on time. A voice note followed, screaming, "Mummy dearest saw the note I made," screaming at him, and I just can't anymore. I feel like a complete butthole firing him over his mother, and I know his behaviour justifies him being fired, but he's been working really hard on improving and I can see the difference. Edit to answer all the questions. I've spoken to both of them to cool it down with her behaviour. I've blocked the mum, she contacts me through his account. She has access to our systems anyway, which is already an issue. Luckily, I've ensured he has no access to any systems with info on the minors taking the courses. This could have opened a whole can of worms. We hired the students because the model is focused on students teaching students. We have kids that go through the program and call lead full classes at age of 15. It's made for low-cost communities so kids can be taught how to be leaders. I love my job, it has changed so many lives and gotten teens to bloom. We have a handful of paid instructors for when the interns, the kids paying cents for the programs, can't make it. Legally I'm good to go, thus making this a would I be the arsehole problem. HR is fully supportive of my decision as well as the higher ups. They are actually encouraging it, but gave me the final call. Isn't overbilling in itself a sackable offence? I remember when I worked for a printing company and they had like a clock-in machine, and someone that I knew used to clock in for one of his friends at the same time when he came in, then he would come in 2 hours late, and he was eventually found out and was like sacked instantly. But this is in the UK and I'm assuming this is the US, so I do wonder. But like you say in this situation, I think because you're saying the guy is trying to improve himself and he is doing better, I do have some sort of empathy towards him. I don't know why. Don't get on my back about that. And it's also because like the mum shouting at him over the voice notes and stuff like that, it just feels like there might be something deeper going on. But obviously we don't know that, but it just feels that way. And I wonder if OP would be able to help this person in the situation. I don't know. You're definitely not the arsehole for what you're doing, but I do worry for that person. Mother is definitely the arsehole in the situation though. But Anacetus Max is not the arsehole, but absolutely document everything before firing the kid, and be ready for Mama to show up and raise hell. OP replies, I could write a book with all the documenting I have on her. And Icana Banana says, you could fire him over the intentional overbilling alone. Falsifying a timesheet is a crime. Not only is he an underperformer, he's dishonest. Definitely get rid of him, not the arsehole. And Possible Discount says, not the arsehole if the worker isn't performing. Fire him. And honestly, it's harsh, but maybe letting him know that his mother is part of the reason he's getting canned might get her to calm the fuck down and shut the hell up, because she sounds wacko. My mother stopped interfering in my work affairs when I reached 15, and the only interference she was doing was getting me more clients. They are both out of line. Fire him and make your life easier. And OP replies again saying, we have so many teens working as well with no mummy issues. We have 15-year-olds that are more competent than most adults I've worked with. Legal in my country before anyone asks. This is an after-school job as well, so it doesn't interfere with anyone's schooling. I think I feel for the kid because my dad used to do the same, so I still feel like a complete butthole not holding his hand. But in my heart, I know it's not my job to raise him. And Talea says, if she's contacting you through work systems, he's already violated confidentiality and security practices. He's given her his login or left unfettered access to the systems. That's a fireable offence right there and then. He's also committed timekeeping fraud. That's another fireable issue. Ignoring the batshit mother angle, although I'd seriously get a restraining order there, this kid would have been out on his ass long ago. Not the arsehole. And as I mentioned, we do have an update on this one. So update, would I be the arsehole if I fired a kid because his mum is harassing me? I know I didn't get that much traction, but here we go. I took the advice and consulted with HR on this as well. So, sad update, he got fired. We took the time and HR spoke to him about his conduct and performance. He admitted to slacking and promised to keep his mum under control. She quickly deleted all the messages on Facebook she sent to me to remove a trace thereof, but the emails remain. He promised to keep everything up to standard and work as hard as possible. The focus was on his quality of work. His mother was mentioned, but just as an afterthought of appropriate work conduct. He then proceeded to amaze us for a total of 5 days before going back into his old habits again and being completely useless and even aggressive towards other team members, making slight mistakes. He even charged ×4 the amount of time for a quarter of the quality of work the other team members produce. So his 2-week probation ended after 9 days. I hope his mother never does this again, but all in all, his work ethic is what got him fired in the end. And I know I said I feel sorry for him, and I still do feel sorry for him if his mother's treated him that way, but, if his work ethic isn't there, you can't blame him for being fired in the end, And I will reiterate that I don't blame OP at all in this situation for what they've done. They're absolutely not the arsehole in this situation at all. They was actually totally the opposite for giving them another chance to prove themselves in the end, but it just didn't work out. And I pretty much lost a lot of empathy when this person acted aggressive towards their co-workers, because co-workers don't deserve that at all. So yes, what do you guys make of this situation? Would you have any empathy towards the kid or not? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And our next story comes from a throwaway account. Am I the arsehole for yelling at my husband, then leaving him at the clinic after his prank? Me, female 28, and my husband, male 34, have been married for a year. Before I met him, I got a dog named Ollie, a German Shepherd that was originally my sister's, but she passed away and I immediately took him to live with me. My husband adores Ollie. He sometimes joked that he's married to me only because of Ollie. He likes making jokes and doing pranks, but some of them are downright nasty. He'd always get me worried by lying, saying Ollie ran off when he was hiding him in a place I didn't know about. He knows how much worried and stressed out those pranks make me, but he says my reaction is priceless and are worth the yelling and lashing afterwards. Ollie needed to be taken to the veterinary clinic for a checkup. My husband said he'd handle it. During the second visit to get the results, I received a call from my husband and his voice sounded like he wasn't okay. I asked what's wrong. I got really worried after he said it was about Ollie. I was starting to shake. I kept asking what's going on and he told me that Ollie's been diagnosed with cancer. He said he wanted me to come over to the clinic as soon as possible because Ollie was with the vet. I couldn't stand. I started asking, is that why Ollie lost weight lately and such? I rushed to the clinic and found my husband standing near the entrance with Ollie. First thing I noticed was him laughing hysterically, telling me that I really bought into his lie. I was confused. He said it was just a prank. Ollie is perfectly healthy and handed me the results to check. After I checked, I lost it. I lashed out at him, not gonna lie. I called him awful names and his face suddenly turned red, like he didn't expect me to react that way. He argued that I made it a big deal, obviously, and was being mean to him over a prank that didn't even last an hour. I kept lashing out that I didn't give him a chance to keep talking. I took Ollie and the keys and then I left. I arrived to the clinic in a taxi. I left him at the clinic while me and Ollie went home by car. 3 hours later, he came back and was upset. He usually laughs even in serious situations, but this time he didn't. He argued that I shouldn't have left him like that and that I overreacted. Said he was trying to make good memories to look back on and laugh at, but I was unnecessarily overreacting. He stopped talking after that. Just wanted to mention that this started months after his father's passing. His family said he never mentions his dad nor keep anything of his, although they were very close. I never met his father, but they told me he wasn't suffering from anything and his death was sudden and my husband had a hard time processing it. This could be the reason for his behaviour. We always say that people process grief in different ways, but taking it out on your wife like that and calling it a prank is just cruel. Abusive, man. It's just totally wrong to go down that path. Imagine how the wife was feeling when she found that out. She said herself she could barely stand. Then she had to make her way to the vets, all worried about this the whole time, then turns up and goes, oh, it's a prank. I just wanted to make good memories. Oh yeah, my dog had cancer. Great memories. Thanks for that. Sure, we're going to look back on this one and laugh, but come on, man. But for the initial question, leaving your husband at the clinic, that was the bare minimum you could have done in that situation. Absolutely not the arsehole for it. But Effulgency says, not the arsehole, this isn't a prank, this is abuse. He wanted you to feel like your beloved dog was dying for his amusement. He laughed at your pain. Even hiding the dog and saying that he ran away is unbelievably cruel. His words aside, I think he's jealous of Ollie. Forget leaving him at the clinic, you should consider leaving his lying, cruel ass entirely. And OP replies to this saying, yes, you are right. I don't know why he keeps joking about serious stuff like that. He once lied to his friend group about their friend dying overseas. Half of the group isn't talking to him anymore because he lied about their close friend's death. It scared them and it was highly inappropriate, but he kept trying to justify that it was a prank. I don't know why he thinks any of this is okay. I've already warned him and told him to not get Ollie involved in his pranks, but it took me to lose my temper to get him to realise that what he was doing was unacceptable. And RevMatt says, not the arsehole, your husband is a dick. Pranks like that are cruel and intended to cause distress. He derives joy from upsetting people and was mad when he got called out for super shitty behaviour. Edited as derives joy from upsetting everybody, not just his wife. And Zoe Jack says, OP, I'm not issuing a judgment because I'm concerned. Your husband sounds like he's escalating. I would get the dog out of the house if possible. Good memories. That makes my skin crawl. And Coco Sneeze says, not the arsehole, get divorce papers printed, hand them to him, and then after 1 hour laugh in his face that it was a prank. Or not. And Devlin says, not the arsehole, I hope you don't plan to have kids with him. He sounds like a terrible person. And now I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know in the comments below. And our next story comes from Popper Loves. Am I the arsehole for not letting anyone hold my son when he was born? This happened pre-COVID, but the fight started again about a month and a half ago. My wife gave birth to our son November 2019. She had a very complicated pregnancy and ended up needing an emergency C-section, which we were aware could happen. We had talked about it for a while and she admitted hating the thought that she would be the last to hold our son. So when he was born and she was still unconscious, I did not allow anyone in our family to hold him, or even meet him really. They saw me, but that was about it. She was unconscious for 4 days, but thankfully recovered and was able to meet and hold our son. It was about a day after everyone else got to meet and hold him for the first time. Our families were upset, but nothing really kicked off except for my mum and sister, who were kinda pushy about it. Then around January, we had an incident. My wife put up some photos of her holding our son for the first time and talked about how traumatic the birth had been and wanted to raise awareness of how dangerous pregnancy and birth can be, and basically just saying how grateful she was to have them both be okay. My mum and sister then really started acting like kids, saying it wasn't fair and we robbed them of those first few days with their grandson/nephew. I told them plenty of people meet their grandkids and nieces and nephews days or even weeks or months after the birth, and had this been COVID times, it would not have happened for a lot longer. But they said I was selfish and should not have done that just because my wife couldn't meet or hold our baby. I am only conflicted on this because someone else suggested I rob my son of having more interaction early on, and I should have thought of him over my wife's feelings on the whole thing. And while most of me is screaming hell no, I wanted to see what a bunch of internet strangers would think. Am I the arsehole? The entitlement of the mother and sister in this situation. I try to understand what goes through people's heads when they're thinking this, and what makes them think that they're right to come out and even say this, and it sounds like they didn't even consider what OP was going through as well, with his wife unconscious, trying to help with the newborn at the same time, how stressful that would have been for OP. And then what wife would have felt like if she woke up and, seeing mother stood there with sister holding the baby and, with what she previously said, how hurt she would be. She lost that one-time chance with her firstborn. Absolutely not the arsehole, in my opinion, in this situation. But Judo Prince says, definitely not the arsehole. Of course your wife should have been the first person, besides yourself, to hold your son. Good for you to stick into your guns. And OK Yellow says, not the arsehole. What? Your mother and sister need to check themselves. They think that he should have the right to hold the baby before his own mother. I highly doubt your son is going to be devastated or affected by the lack of interaction early on. No, your wife didn't want to be the last to hold him, and it's your child. You two come first. Mother and father over anyone else really in this situation. And Krilla Ann says, the just because made me gasp. Just because the woman who carried him and risked her life to give birth to him and hadn't held him yet. That's a hell of a just because, and you're damn right they needed to back off and wait. Not the arsehole times 100. And Northern Lit Up says, not the arsehole. This hit home as a C-section mum who was given additional medication during the C-section without my knowledge or consent to calm me down. I was not in any way worked up. After a 26-hour labour that just put me to sleep, I remember a very little of my daughter's birth and didn't hold her till hours later. When I awoke and finally held her, she had already been bathed and my parents had had her. Now, I'm not holding anything against my parents or husband. They didn't think anything of it. Still, 20 years later, when I see the first pictures of my daughter with my husband and parents, and I'm not there, it stings a bit. And Aromatic Eye says, oh my god, not the arsehole, not the arsehole, not the arsehole. They lost nothing waiting a few days. This was profoundly important to your wife, who endured a great deal of physical trauma bringing him into the world. Of course you needed to honour her wishes. You robbed your son of nothing. Those who are complaining are being incredibly obnoxious and selfish. Perhaps they don't need to see your son at all. Whenever I say world, it worries me now, because people are like, oh, Mark, the way you say world, man. Anyway, what do you guys think of this situation and what would you do? Let me know in the comments below. Once again, guys, thank you for being here today, and I hope you did enjoy today's stories. And if you did, you know what to do. Hit the like, the subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too, as it really helps out our channel. And if you'd like to support further, you absolutely can by clicking that join button down below for YouTube, or clicking that Patreon link in the description and joining up there. It's very, very helpful. And yeah, I just can't thank you enough. And just for taking the time out of your day too. It really does mean the world to me. And with that being said, I will see you, if you enjoyed of course, in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.